Hey, what's up, guys? This is NorbCam coming at you on this, Thursday. I'm a little late to react to this story about Richard Sherman, but I want to get just some quick thoughts out there in regards to this very sad case, which we're still finding out the details of. So I'm sure most of you have already heard, but Richard Sherman was arrested either late or early yesterday, I believe in Redmond. Kind of complicated story involving Richard Sherman being driving under the influence. He kind of crashed his vehicle at a construction site, and then he was at his in-laws' house, basically breaking in to get in there, and ultimately his wife called 911 to have them send officers over because it sounded like a very dangerous situation. I don't know if you guys have heard the 911 call. It was posted yesterday. I believe Cairo Radio, ESPN Radio was the first ones to break it out there. It was hard to listen to. She sounds genuinely scared. She's pleading for Richard. Please, Richard, stop. And she's afraid that he might kill himself, afraid he might hurt one of her family members. And the way the case wrapped up was one of the officers who showed up at the house. First of all, listening to that tape, that was the most rudest 911 operator I think I've ever heard. In all the 911 calls I've listened to, that was the most rude, short 911 operator I've ever heard. I was shocked. She was like constantly cutting off his wife and saying, okay, you're not helping here. I need you to answer my questions. I mean, just being really, I know they have to be kind of, they can't be too, emotional or empathetic, and, they have to be very factual, but this woman was not being very helpful, I thought she was being very, very rude. And for someone who's trying to get this information out, she was cutting her off all the time and telling her to stop talking because I need to just focus on the questions I'm asking. Rude, I thought. Anyway, so one of the officers who came to the scene was familiar with Richard Sherman because he used to be a valet attendant, and he said he used that previous relationship to kind of calm him down and tell him that he used to park his car, and I think that worked until the point where he said, we're going to have to arrest you, and then he got kind of violent again, and they had to use a canine unit to take him down. I don't know if the dog actually had to bite him or do anything like that, but I don't think there was any major injuries, so hopefully there was anything. Jeez, dude, cut me off. So anyway, so the story came out, he hadn't posted bail yet, so he did have to spend the night in jail. I have not seen the update today. I've been working on a production, so I haven't seen the latest this morning. So that's the latest that I had seen. What's really weird about this is there's so many people still talking and even reading news articles about how, hey, the Seahawks might bring Richard Sherman back as a cornerback, to help that young defense out. And then this happens. This is supposed to be the slowest time of the year. The All-Star break, the day after, I believe they say that like the day after the All-Star break is normally like the slowest time in sports, except NBA Finals are still going on. But you normally not expect to hear anything NFL news-wise, and then that bomb dropped. And I just couldn't believe it. It's like, what? And from all the accounts I've been reading, this is something Richard Sherman has been dealing with, some personal issues. He's had teammates who have gone to his house actually to try to help him through it. He still lives up here obviously in the Pacific Northwest, even though he has been playing with the Niners. He still has a home up here, not too far from where I am at. In fact, that Panda Express right over here, if you could actually see it, which you might see as I turn the corner here, I believe Richard Sherman had been seen there before, or at least back when he first moved here. Anyway, but yeah, it's just so sad and shocking. Yet at the same time, maybe we shouldn't be so shocked, because remember when the same thing, again, I'm just focusing on the LOB members. Earl Thomas, you remember the stories and the things that happened with him in the offseason before the season last year? The Ravens decided to cut Earl Thomas because that whole incident with his brother and another woman, and his wife assaulting him allegedly because she had caught him messing around or whatever, and so she was, I think, threatening him with a gun, and all these things came up that bad behavior that we never even heard a peep about when he was here in Seattle. And Richard Sherman, same thing. When he was with Seattle, we never heard anything. The only thing you ever heard about was his trash talking on the field. But off the field, dude has Richard Sherman celebrity softball thing. He was always just doing good things. Just didn't hear about them in the news. And now this is the second former LOB member who's had major off-field issues. And it's not. So a lot of questions come to mind, but the big question is, what does this mean moving forward for him? Is his career? Can he still have a football career? Is his career done? I mean, it was on the twilight. He was obviously still a free agent. Nobody's signed him yet. He's in that realm now where it's kind of like, well, your career is only as good as teams still want to pay you and sign you, and he hadn't been signed by anybody yet. So maybe that was part of the frustration he's dealing with, the reality of his career possibly wrapping up and being on the side of maybe retiring from football. The good news here is that he never actually assaulted anybody. What he was arrested for was what did they say? It was domestic. I forgot now. I forgot what the wording was. Domestic burglary, something like that. But there was no actual domestic incident where he'd, hurt or attacked anybody. So I think that's a good thing in terms of his record is concerned, that he didn't actually physically assault anybody. Maybe that was what, burglary, assault. Anyway, whatever it is, it's very clarified that the charge looks like it sounds worse than it actually was, since there was no actual assault that had happened, at least from my understanding. But I just think it just reveals there's a side clearly that we don't know what those issues are. We may not know till for days or weeks to come here, or at all, exactly what he was dealing with. Was it personal, just him mentally, his own state? Was it something with his relationship? Was it something else? Was alcohol just an issue that night, or is this something that's been brewing? Obviously, there's been a problem, growing that wasn't just a one-night thing. There's been a developing situation where teammates were going to try to help him out. But can he return from this? And one, as a human being, you hope that he can. Football is secondary in the sense that if he wants to continue to play football, you hope that he can get back into to be able to play if a team will have him. That's another question. Will the team have him? Will this be a blemish that will already hurt his chances for return? Being that was already questionable, was he going to get a return somewhere? I still think he had years to play. He wasn't going to be in his form that he was 10 years ago or 10 years ago when he was LOB, top of the line. But he could still play. Still had skills. But now, will this hamper his return? That's from a football standpoint. But yeah, from just what does this mean? What is this indicative of in terms of, why is this happening to players? It's so easy for us on the other side of the TV to look at these guys and say, oh man, these guys are millionaires. They got everything. They should be, on cloud nine, just having an easy life because they got all the money, they got all the fame, all this stuff, a football player. And yet you realize that just because you have all those things, it doesn't mean you are not without problems in your life. I think it doesn't matter. You can be rich, poor, famous, not famous. Everybody can have, mental struggles, emotional struggles, relationship struggles. It doesn't matter. Money and fame doesn't solve those things. In fact, it might actually make it worse. It might actually make it harder, I think, because, if you've reached a point where you are like the best in the world, and we all thought Richard Sherman, and I think it was a point where he was arguably one of the best corners that ever played the game. But those days have gone. And so, you know, there's a point where, what does that mean to somebody, you know? Because it's hard to have everything and then to sort of lose that. And maybe that was part of the struggle. Maybe that's part of the struggle of having everything you've ever wanted and being the best. And then when that goes away, you start to return to a level where it's like you're a superhero at one point, and then now you're dropping to a level where you're like a normal person. I can imagine that's got to be hard, right? You know, it's almost worse than just being normal the whole time, because if you were just always at this level of what it's like to be in life, it's hard enough. But to have something that's so, you know, great, to have all these things that are going your way, and to slowly watch that go away, due to age, due to injury, health, whatever, and just life. Because as we know, in the NFL, acronym is not for long. You know, every football player's career is really on average very short. You're lucky if you play 4 or 5 seasons, and if you play longer, you're even more fortunate. But I think the average is like 2, 3, or 4 seasons if you can make it to the NFL. So it's a small window, and when that window closes, all of a sudden you're brought down to earth. And maybe speculating here, but maybe that has something to do with it. But anyway, we'll probably explore this more. Maybe talk to some other guys and get some of their takes on the big picture of this. But for Richard Sherman, we can only hope that he can get things squared away. Hopefully, from the criminal standpoint, it won't be too serious of a charge or a consequence, and that he can, you know, be able to get back and eventually reacclimate to returning to football, or at least as a free citizen, and that he can get the help he needs to get through his problems. So we'll see what happens. But anyway, just want to get a few thoughts out there. We will talk more as more Seahawks news develops. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. We'll talk to y'all later. Go Hawks. Oops, wrong button. I'm out.